It's official! Big Ange is back in management. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be centering around the Nottingham Forest situation regarding Nuno Espirito Santo's exit last night from his position as head coach and the immediate successor, the immediate appointment of Big Ange Postecoglou, who helped Tottenham towards Europa League success last year before being sacked himself, getting the position under Marinakis at Nottingham Forest. We're going to be talking about this big managerial appointment. We're going to be talking about the sacking of Nuno, the appointment of Big Ange, and everything else in between regarding Nottingham Forest. But before we go any further in discussing all of that and much more, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you are new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And I also encourage you all to get involved in the comment section down below. Use and abuse that section, people. Talk to me on this intriguing topic of discussion. Will Big Ange be a success at Nottingham Forest? Was it wrong of Forest to sack Nuno Espirito Santo? Let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling down in that comment section. And without further ado, we're going to get on with the conversation ourselves. We're talking Big Ange, we're talking Nuno, we're talking Nottingham Forest, and everything else in between those stories. So, how it goes is, last night the big news dropped from many sources from Portugal, The Athletic. David Ornstein was on it as well as obviously Fabrizio Romano. They were all singing off the same hymn sheet that Nuno Espirito Santo and Nottingham Forest had parted ways after what had seemingly been a rough ride in recent months in regards to a deteriorating relationship. It seemed as though that the relationship between Nuno and the owner, Evangelos Marinakis, at Nottingham Forest had been souring. It had been going on a bit of a downward spiral as of late. And Nuno himself had even stated publicly in press conferences that he felt the relationship just wasn't what it used to be. It had obviously distanced itself over time. Add that to the appointment of Edu over the course of the summer as the head of global football, or something like that as his title, at Nottingham Forest, and it seems as though that appointment didn't exactly help smooth things over or sort of bridge the gap between those two parties. Instead, it seemingly created more friction and brought more of that relationship into disrepute as the summer went on. A number of stories being leaked and being put out there, a number of reports seemingly stating that Nuno wasn't exactly happy with the summer transfer plan of Nottingham Forest. He'd even gone on record as to say that he believed the club were not ready to begin the season right at the beginning of the campaign before, of course, they won big against Brentford. But even so, he stated that he wasn't happy with how summer preparations had gone. And that only seemed to create more tension, more friction. For me personally, I'm under the impression that Marinakis wanted to get rid of him at the end of last season. We all remember when Marinakis stormed the pitch after, I believe it was Forest's defeat to Leicester City at the end of last season. I think he was unhappy at the fact that Champions League, that dream, was seemingly falling away. They obviously dropped down to 7th in the end, which was a Europa Conference League spot until, of course, the technicality that saw Crystal Palace get relegated to the Europa Conference League and Forest gain from their downfall, which is being upgraded to the Europa League. So they did get Europa League football, but I don't think Marinakis was entirely happy about obviously being in a Champions League spot for so long and for a large part of the Premier League season to ultimately fall down the pecking order to Europa Conference League, but only get through to the Europa League on, like I said before, a technicality. I think he wanted to get rid of him then. I think the appointment of Edu was a way to try and force him out of the club rather than sacking him himself. And I think the signings that Edu have made that have reportedly not gone down well with Nuno were basically there for a contingency plan after Nuno. I think that the plan of getting rid of Nuno rather than sacking him didn't exactly go to plan, and that's why it's happened at this point in time, because the timing doesn't make much sense. You've just confirmed your Europa League squad for the league phase of the campaign. You've just completed the transfer window over the course of the summer, in which you didn't get rid of him. So who are these players exactly bought for, I wonder? And not only that, but you've also played the first 3 games of the season. The timing of it just seems weird. The overall direction of it just seems weird. The chain of events just seem weird. I personally think that Marinakis wanted to get rid of Nuno a long time before this, but this was the open opportunity that he needed to do it in order for fans to more so be on side than not. Let's face it, if he'd have done this after Nuno had led them to a 7th place finish and, of course, gaining European football, I don't think a lot of Nottingham Forest fans may have been too happy with that, considering how Forest were expected to basically be in a relegation fight last season. Wouldn't Forest fans have been happy if they'd have just seen their club gain European football for the first time in many a year, only for their head coach to be sacked? Probably not, but this probably has been a bit more of an open opportunity for Postecoglou to come in, for Nuno to go out, and for Marinakis to, as Marinakis does, get his own way like usual. Of course, he couldn't have done it towards the end of last season because the manager wasn't available. The manager was winning the Europa League with Spurs at the time. And of course, Champions League was still potentially on the cards. Even though, of course, it dwindled away, it was still being talked about as a possibility and potential for Nottingham Forest's end of season campaign. So I think Marinakis got his own way. I think he wanted to get rid of him long before now. But the opportunity wasn't exactly there. Fast forward to a few games into the season, and you know, the results have been inconsistent. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. The football hasn't exactly been amazing on his part, and that was supposedly a big reason why he has brought Ange in and got rid of Nuno. So the opportunity was wide open for Marinakis to do what Marinakis does, his own thing, and get his own way. Then, not even within 24 hours, not even after 24 hours, almost instantaneously, Ange Postecoglou arrives at Nottingham Forest training ground this morning. He's through the door, contracts on the table, signed, sealed, and delivered. Like I say, it's almost like it was previously planned, this. Postecoglou's now through. Is this, though, Postecoglou's team, or is this Marinakis' team? For me personally, I think this is Marinakis using Postecoglou as a bit of a puppet. He's got him on strings, he's making him dance, and this is basically Marinakis' way of gaining full control, proper control of Nottingham Forest. Obviously, might be a mad conspiracy theory, but it isn't out the realms of possibility considering how mad that guy seemingly is. He gets his way, Postecoglou comes in. Now, Postecoglou, as we know, is the man that won Tottenham a trophy. He won the Europa League within his 2nd season. After everybody had laughed that he would win something in his 2nd season, he claimed that himself. Everybody laughed. He actually went on to prove a lot of people wrong. Nobody thought it was possible for Tottenham to win a trophy. Many had tried, many had failed, including the likes of Maurizio Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, and even his predecessor, Nuno Espirito Santo, for a small period of time. None of them succeeded. This man did. He got them to the Europa League final and beat Manchester United 1-0 in what was probably the worst Europa League final, worst European final, worst final in general. But it won't matter to Tottenham fans because at the end of the day, at the end of the night, they got their hands on that incredible Europa League trophy, that incredible triumph. What followed was Tottenham sacking him, Tottenham going in a different direction. The reason why was mainly their league form, as much as like the triumph of a Europa League papered over some massive cracks. Those cracks were seemingly too much for the likes of Daniel Levy and Tottenham at the time to bear witness to. And that's why they got rid of him after they finished 17th with an incredible loss record throughout the season. That occurred. Why did it occur? Well, a number of factors. 1, his stubbornness. 2, his failure to adapt. 3, The fact that every player pretty much got injured in his entire team at one point or another across the 2 years that he was there. And for his, like I say, his overall stubbornness. He came in as this really charming, charismatic Aussie that you could probably go down the pub with for a drink or two. Seemingly a really cool guy. And then over time, he started to become hypocritical. He said that we should leave referees to do their job. But that was only when things were going right for him and when they benefited Tottenham. The moment things turned sour and didn't benefit Tottenham, that's when he started to call them out. He started to turn disrespectful and snappy towards certain interviewers in press conferences that were asking him certain questions. And if he didn't like the questions, he would get very defensive, he'd get very rude, and he would snap back at them just as much. I don't know if you really want that guy as your manager, to be perfectly honest with you. Don't know if you really want that guy to be your manager, but Marinakis does. And obviously Marinakis always wins. That is the kind of catchphrase anyway, that Marinakis always wins. He always gets his own way, and this, I believe, is his way of controlling Forest, not just from the outside, but from the inside as well. Look, all I know is that this guy is going to produce some really attacking football. Really, really attacking football. Might make Forest entertaining to watch, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good thing for Forest. If he is the same Ange Postecoglou that has failed to adapt at Spurs, if he's not looked back and reflected on his time at Spurs and gone, you know, when I adapted, you know, when I changed things, that was when Spurs were not exactly the best to watch, but they were efficient. That was why they won the Europa League, because he managed to adapt in that competition, change certain things, and maybe they weren't exactly the best to watch at certain times, but they were efficient enough to get the job done, get across the finish line, get the win that they needed, and move on to the next stage. In the Premier League, it wasn't so that case. He was basically a very stubborn manager, failed to adapt, failed to change things, and people found him out. Teams found him out very, very quickly, very, very easily. And he had excuses like injuries and other kind of things that were going on. It didn't work. And why did it not work completely? Because he didn't have the right players. Tottenham were never going to give him the sort of Class A players. They were always going to look for B options, C options, D options, that kind of thing. Forest aren't going to be much better, by the way. Forest aren't going to be much better, by the way. So there's no point in even trying to suggest that that will be the case. I just have visions of Milenkovic defending on the halfway line, blowing out his hamstrings within 5 minutes of the first game, which conveniently is against Arsenal on Saturday. So that's going to be a very interesting game now with this added layer on top of what is already going to be a fascinating game between Arsenal and Nottingham Forest anyway. But that's just the way that I see it. If he is going to be the same manager that was at Tottenham, whether it's the way that he carried himself towards the end, whether it's the way that he was snappy, the way that he was hypocritical, the way that he just failed to adapt, was so stubborn in his ways, I think this is going to be a very poor appointment by Nottingham Forest. I really, really do. I really do in general. I think this is just another way for Marinakis to seize control. But, you know, I just don't see this working out. I really, really don't. I see there being more injuries. I see a team that is failing to adapt to him and he's failing to adapt to the team. I see it being a bit of a mismatch, in all honesty. And, you know, okay, he's in the Europa League. He won that last year. Maybe he could go on and do it again with a different team. Maybe he could be go down in history books as a manager to win the Europa League twice in 2 seasons with 2 different clubs. Maybe. It's not at the realms of possibility, but I just find this whole situation really weird. Sad on Nuno. Very sad on Nuno, considering what he's managed to do there. He managed to steer them clear of relegation and then, of course, managed to build them up to this European football contending team. I know things have to move on. I know things have to change, but I do feel like it's harsh on Nuno. Postecoglou comes in, and I, for one, I personally don't see this working out. I really, really don't. Like, I could be proven wrong, of course, and maybe in the overly ambitious and crazy wild mind of Marinakis, it will, because maybe his long-term vision actually does somehow pay off. But I just don't think it looks right. I don't think it will gel right. I don't think it will connect right. I just don't see a world in which Ange Postecoglou, and he's proven me wrong before, by the way, so I will just throw that out there, but I just don't see a world in which Ange Postecoglou and Nottingham Forest are going to work. I'm sorry, I just don't. I just don't see that world happening. I don't see those two things, those two entities connecting in the way that maybe others might. I could be wrong. I've been proven wrong before. This man did say he wins things in his second season, within his second season in charge of clubs. I laughed at him at the time, as did many others, but he did prove me and a lot of others wrong. So we shall see how this one goes. But the bottom line here is it's Nuno out, it's Big Ange in at Nottingham Forest, as the City ground is about to welcome in a new era of Big Ange Postecoglou. These are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of the big breaking news that Big Ange Postecoglou has been appointed as the new Nottingham Forest manager? Let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling down below in the comment section. Was it right to get rid of Nuno? Was it wrong to get rid of Nuno? And is Big Ange the right choice for Nottingham Forest going forward? Let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling down below in that comment section. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new and want to see more content like this. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you all again very, very soon.